Hi, everyone. It's Kathy. Welcome to another episode of A Journey into Cybersecurity. And wanted to share a little story about what happened to me the other day. A couple of weeks ago, we launched our first episode that was Gina's Journey into Cybersecurity. And the same day, I got a message. It says, I came across your website on my LinkedIn feed and fell in love with the company's mission and goals. I would love to share my story if you would consider me. And of course, I would consider her because she is fantastic. But this is a person I did not know. She came out of the blue. She reached out and wanted to support this cause, which is fantastic. And just to remind what the cause is, it is to inspire young people to consider all the possibilities in cybersecurity. So without any further ado, I welcome Nias Luckey.
Hi, good morning, Nia. Kathy. Hi. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. So thank you for joining me and reaching out. It means a lot to me. And how about we introduce you? What is your title, Nia?
So my current title is Information System Security Engineer. And for those at home, what that means is I have to learn and know and support pretty much all of the regulations that make us compliant, right? That ensure the security, safety of the services that Cisco provides to our customer base. And so the customers I support are very important, and it's the Department of Defense primarily. So just ensuring that everything we do aligns with the government requirements, but additionally, like that little extra step, because Cisco is so great at what we do, but the private sector, right? The actual cybersecurity aspect of all of it, and just ensure that our services are as secure as possible as we support our customers in whatever service that we're providing them.
Great. And I also saw that before this particular role, you were a SOC manager. So what is a SOC manager?
So SOC manager, Kathy, and no, not socks, like puppet socks, okay, because my kids honestly believed that for a while. They were really confused. So SOC, a SOC stands for a Security Operations Center. And anybody that's been in the industry for a little bit is very familiar with it, whether you realize it or not. It is the center of an organization that monitors for bad guys, for hackers, for adversaries that are trying to get into our systems and steal information, right? And why is this important? Because where I work at Cisco, we're the US public sector. So we support, like I said, primarily the Department of Defense. So we're not as advanced as some of our private sector counterparts. So my role was instrumental because we established this for the services that we provide.
Awesome. And to be clear, you are part of the defense of the Department of Defense. So this is an important role. This is not a little...
We ensure that, we ensure the service of pretty much voice, like what we're doing right now, voice over IP, but securely to the DoD, so that they can do this, and they can do this from their offices, deployments, it doesn't matter where they are. But we ensure the security and cybersecurity aspects of it while being compliant.
Right. It's a big to-do. So before we dig a little bit more into cybersecurity and how you got here, let's talk about Nia, the kid, and how you grew up and where you grew up and what did you like doing?
Sure. So I was born and raised in Connecticut, so definitely a long way away from home, for sure, here in North Carolina now. And I've been here for about 15 years, but rewinding, I was the oldest of 4 kids. So I had 3 younger siblings. I loved art, I loved writing, poetry, but ultimately, which is kind of funny when I look back on it, but I was in the band. and I was in the color guard, and I did that primarily throughout my entire childhood. So very introverted. I wanted to be extroverted, but I wasn't. And I did. I grew up in a really interesting time, if you think about it, right? So IT, we had dial-up internet. There wasn't a whole lot of exposure to this lens in terms of a career or anything like that. So my primary focus with the support of my family was good grades, school, extracurriculars, more the traditional path. Um, and then I went a completely not traditional way. I joined the military because when I was 17, IT, yes, you could take it as an elective, right? But you couldn't get a degree in it. There was no bachelor's programs or master's degree programs in IT or cybersecurity when I was 17. But it was through a very supportive family that I was able to pretty much achieve my dreams. They were big dreamers themselves, being rooted in the corporate kind of structure of America and then the legal side of it too. So I come from lawyers and I come from people that are, in just more of that corporate space where I am now. So the biggest takeaway I had from my entire childhood was dream big, and we're going to support you, and we're going to love you, and we're going to nurture you no matter what that path is, no matter where it takes you, so that you can be successful in everything you do. No dream is too big.
So, what drew you to the military? What was it that compelled you to consider it and to join ultimately?
So big driver for that. I was again in the generation where we were sitting in class when we watched 9/11 happen. I'm only the second member in my family to serve. My grandfather's a Marine. And I just loved just the pride I felt when I knew that there was a veteran in my family. And I wanted to be a part of that, and I wanted to contribute to it. I just wasn't sure how. So I did go the path. I tried to join the Air Force. Unfortunately, they weren't recruiting, but the Army was. And I am just indebted to my military service because that's how I was able to continue my education and do such an amazing career pivot after my time with them was, over.
And did you learn different lessons, school versus military? What are some of the differences in the lessons you get to learn in different environments like that?
So when you're in the military, it's a lot of life experience learning, which I think is instrumental to being successful in any career field. So from management to being able to be a critical thinker, to support a team, all of those critical roles that we look for, right, in an employee when we're interviewing people. The Army kind of they teach you it by default. So that is something that I don't think you can get traditionally straight out of college. And then also they provide free schools. So in your off time or your non-deployed time, I had the ability to take college courses and start towards a degree, but not necessarily finish one, right? So it made me more well-rounded during the time I served, which I think was, again, just instrumental to being able to take a step out of the military and get a career and not have to dedicate all of my time to school or, trying to figure it out. It was just a natural pivot. And that's honestly, I think my biggest, I'm not going to say passion, but it's getting that message out there. It's that it's possible. You can do it. There are resources. You're not alone. And there's a huge veteran community that I'm a part of that I just like to bring forward and pay it forward because I didn't have that 4 years ago.
Yeah. And it's funny how the word possibility keeps popping up during these podcasts, which is a lovely theme to keep promoting. So what did you then get to learn during those 13 years in the Army? What kind of classes did you take?
So I started originally, and this is before like Cybrary was a big thing. It's a great resource along with Udemy. So all of you that are listening, those are top two now that I would recommend for training. But for me specifically, I actually found a university. It's Defense Acquisition University. And why is this important? Because as long as you are a service member, the courses are free, completely free.
Wow.
And the way they have it broken out is if you are going like the IT track, for example, some of those courses during your studies are worth ACE credits. Why is that important? Because they're transferable to accredited colleges. So what you can do is you take your coursework. This counts for promotion points, those of you that are still serving. But if you're not, why is it important? Because I want to say over half of my credits transferred after I got out of the military to an accredited university like FTCC or FSU or ECU. There's a number of partnering what I consider yellow ribbon schools that the majority of what you've achieved in your studies transfers. So then you are rounding out your bachelor's or your associates. It's only maybe a semester or two of credit work that's left.
Wow, that's really powerful to know that you have those opportunities and you don't even have to pay for it. Then again, you're paying with your service, so that has value. So, who were some of your other role models beyond your parents, your grandfather, anybody else who inspired you?
Sure. No, there's been so many over, both careers now. So in the military, I leaned a lot towards leadership. So, and it was just more a leadership style. So it was any service member that really kind of just embodied the type of leader I wanted to be. And the list of names is endless. Just so many great people that I'm still in contact with today, from officers to enlisted. But the ones that really kind of changed the way I consider and view a mentor were definitely as I was getting out of the military. So just to give kind of just some homage to some of them, he's now a coworker, but Robert Martin was my night school instructor. While I was driving to night school for 6 months after getting out and working a full-time job, he was one of my night school instructors, and he's the one that really planted the seed of be bold, right? If you want a mentor, ask for it. Find somebody that aligns with what you want next to your name in some capacity, future, like later on down the line, and just be bold. Ask if they'll mentor you. Odds are they're going to say yes, which is something that to me, I was like, no way, that's a stranger. What? But no, and that's how I found my first mentor. And her name is Dr. Crystal Williams. And she instrumental. Like there's no words that describe that relationship to me, and what those opportunities have brought to my life. And it's primarily because it really taught me how to immerse myself in nonprofit organizations through networking, and bringing resources like this to our youth, but specifically through women in technology. And that's, I don't know, I can't really place a value on it because there isn't one. When you're bringing education and knowledge and support to other women and young women in our future generations.
I love that. How did you reach out to her? Because you took that step, you took the initiative to reach out to her, right?
Funny story, LinkedIn. So I didn't send her, I wasn't able to send her an email, but I did send her a direct message. And it was very similar to me reaching out to you. Short, sweet, concise, just basically, this is who I am. And this was the challenge statement. And I came across your profile and you meet that criteria. Would you be interested in having a conversation of being my mentor? Do you mentor? And we did. We met up at another networking event through the Information System Security Association. I introduced myself, and 4 years later, she still mentors. So I would say it was very successful, but very scary. Definitely not a comfort zone conversation. Completely out of my comfort zone for that one.
That's fantastic. And I love that you took that initiative, getting out of your comfort zone, but that she embraced it, that she welcomed it, and that she's still mentoring you and probably very proud to do so as well. What are some of the things that she mentors you on?
Everything from the way we represent ourselves to the way we speak to the way we interact. It's difficult in cybersecurity once you start climbing up through like management, middle management, and up, the language changes. You're going from hyper technical to business impact and those types of conversations. But then she brings it back in a totally different way, which kind of really pulls on my heartstrings because I have 3 kids. But it's how to then translate it down to a level that makes sense for children. And so where her mentorship is critical to me is we have a program within our nonprofit organization that is the Cyber Girls Academy. And once a quarter, we do all volunteer, basically cyber and tech like sessions, if you will, for the girl youth of our community. So the most recent one she did this month was flying drones downtown in historic Fayetteville, but for our girls, right? So ages like, I want to say, for like 8 into like 14. And we get to volunteer and be a part of that. So you're learning how to take the high level conversations down to a level that kids, you see that spark, Kathy, and you see them light up and they love it. And so it's so well-rounded. And she's just always there, no matter if there's a personal hiccup or if there's just something I'm really struggling with, like burnout with work, just somebody to talk to, a friend to have coffee with. The relationship really has evolved more into that than just a strict, like rigid mentor-mentee aspect. It's really developed into a genuine like friendship.
Yes. It's amazing how supportive the cybersecurity community is. And obviously, I'm sure there are other communities outside of cybersecurity that are equally welcoming. But from experience, I can say without any doubt that this is a welcoming and nurturing community. And it's great to be part of that community and to make a real difference.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about on your journey between your younger years in the military and then beyond. What were some of the obstacles that you faced and how did you overcome them?
So many obstacles, Kathy. I don't think any journey through life is without them, right? So for me, there's a couple that really stand out, and it's gonna get a little vulnerable here, but so my deployments were not easy. Again, I'm a mother of 3. I had my first child very young. I turned 20 a month after he was born. So I'm not saying my children were obstacles, but when you turn around and then you deploy shortly after having your children, that is something you have to overcome. And that took community. That took support of my family, not just my actual God-given family, but my Army family, and the support of all of my leaders through all of that. And when that honestly really showed me that family's not fixed to blood, was when I lost my mother during one of those deployments. And to be fully embraced in a just chaotic time in my life really just showed me how to persevere through, right, the rest of my obstacles as I grew older. It taught me that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to lean on people that, I guess, in layman's terms would be complete strangers, right? And show that side of yourself and that it's okay, because keeping it inside and trying to persevere with that pain on your own, not a lot of people are successful in it, unfortunately. So those obstacles, though, really prepared me for some other obstacles, like taking a complete drastic career pivot going into my 30s. No idea what the heck I was doing, right? But that was an obstacle too. And because the way I view obstacles is it's something that pulls you from your comfort zone into a very uncomfortable state of change. So, and it doesn't have to be traumatic, but it's something that just drastically changes how you're currently doing life, how you're currently, you know, walking your journey and experiencing and interacting with others. So there have been so many, but not all of them bad. All of them actually very good in the lessons that I've learned. And just trying to, my biggest takeaway through every single one of them that I've experienced is you kind of hunt the good stuff. You look for those silver linings. You look for that streak of optimism to pull through, because not everything in life is easy, right? Some of the most important, profound steps and leaps I've made were extremely uncomfortable, but they didn't have to be painful. And they were very fruitful on the back end, but it's all about perspective and who you choose to walk through that obstacle with.
Wow. And I'm so sorry. This must be so hard to even talk about it. And
A little
I,
bit.
yeah. So comfort zone is something that everybody likes to be in, but today's world, like you say, it just doesn't exist anymore. You can't stay in a comfort zone. Change is kind of a constant around you. If you don't keep up, you're going to be left behind. So why is it important to challenge yourself? And how have you challenged yourself to get out of your comfort zone beyond what you just shared? Because you do a lot of public speaking as
I
well.
do. So, true story behind that. It terrifies me. So, what better way to face fear and to take fear out of something than doing the action that is bringing fear to your life? And so it started with very small classes at FTCC and getting up in front of a room of complete strangers and talking. From my talks 4 years ago to this podcast today, the growth just shines through, but it's taking that step. It's recording a video 20 times and deleting it before you don't dislike it anymore, right? And it's becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable, Kathy.
Yes, accepting it.
Accepting it, embracing it, and not being afraid of it, and then shining through it eventually, right? So it's kind of taking that weakness and turning it into a strength.
Yeah.
And that's where magic happens. I mean, I tell you. But if you would have asked me 4 years ago, hey, public speaking, getting up at, ISSA International and being a closing keynote speaker, do you see yourself doing that? The answer was no. No. Do you see yourself being on YouTube doing podcasts? No. Do you see yourself doing virtual conferences and being hosted on YouTube? No. But I'm doing all of those things, but it's because I embraced being uncomfortable, because I do feel like I have a message that needs to be shared. And so it was figuring out how to share that message, because to me, keeping all of it to myself isn't benefiting the communities I support, right? It's not paying it forward. And that's passion, right? That's what makes me a tick, is I want to be able to get this message out there. I want to support it. I want to bring the community together and say, hey, look, resources. you don't have to do it by yourself, right? So going back to our other little conversation, it's giving them that support through the cybersecurity like family that they might otherwise not know is there.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I love how you keep saying paying it forward. It's such a powerful message. And how you stress the importance of finding that purpose, knowing that you have a voice and that your voice matters,
Yes.
and that it's good to speak up. It's good to have a voice and a seat at the table and contribute to the greater good. And you are doing that. So I'm super grateful for you. Thank you. When you transitioned from a military environment to an IT security environment, what were some of the similarities? I presume there are similarities because you're still part of an ecosystem that is protecting and serving the greater community. And what kind of similarities are there that, if aspiring veterans would like to move into cybersecurity, what can they build on? What is the foundation?
So that's, gosh. So when I was transitioning, what really opened my eyes to exactly what you're speaking to, Kathy, was when we did a resume building workshop. And I was like, oh my goodness, IT. Okay, I ran a help desk. It was really difficult to get my brain to think what are these parallels. But when I was, delving into the free resources that are out there, like Visual CV or CV Maker or Resume Up, right? Just 3 examples. There's so many more. I started with management skills, leadership skills, right? So a lot of us, we have what are called, well, in the Army, it's NCOERs or, your awards or what have you. But when you look at those bullets, when you look at what went into writing the credential that you have, they're very similar to resume bullets.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started seeing the parallels. That's when I started to see how you word out what management looks like, how you managed a service, how you led a team, what was, the before state, what was the after state, what was the impact. And then I was able to dig a little bit deeper into skill sets. So what are your skill sets? Are you good at, Microsoft Office Suite? Do you know how to do Excel? Do you know how to build a Gantt chart or a pivot table? That's where light bulbs just kept going off, because I was like, oh my goodness, I had no idea that in 13 years I had developed enough skills to put together a 2-page resume. But that's definitely where I started, was with those administrative skills and those management leadership skills, which I, again, no value. Once you realize it and once you connect the dots, it's almost fluid. And if it's not fluid, that's okay. That's why I want to get this message out there, because there's people like me that can help you, right? Target your resume, right? Kind of pull at the strings of what you're leaning on to really present yourself in a paper format to possible employers.
So the other day I was talking to a veteran who just retired from the Marines, and he was also kind of struggling to find his next thing. And he realized that he did a lot of operational work. And operational work just means how things are run, just all of these things that take place, the processes, the procedures that people implement to get from point A to point B. And every organization has an operational function. Everybody has operations. So he started to realize that experience is equally valuable in the private sector, and that sharing that experience is valuable. And so he's not starting from zero. He's starting with all that already on his resume. So I definitely want to you know, veterans to see your story and see and value the experiences and all the lessons that they learn, not realizing how valuable in the eyes of an employer they may be.
Yes.
Let's talk about vision boards and goal setting. What do you do with those?
So vision boards I love. And the reason why I love them is because it gives us a visual representation of our goals, right? And it's something that you can keep up and you can look towards and you can say, okay, I've achieved that, but I still have to achieve this. I'm more of a list-oriented person myself. So vision boards, as fun as they are, just not my style. But I do have a very similar, it's the same style. I use the tool that I've come across, and it's called Smart Goal Building and Hard Goal Building. So both kind of draw from the same strings. You have to be passionate about the goals that you're setting. But SMART goals are more of your easily obtainable goals in a short, condensed timeline. So you're 1 to 3 years, whereas your hard goals are stretch. So you're going to go to school, you're going to read books, you're going to continue your education, you're going to volunteer, right? But the reason why they're critical is because they're goals and they're pulling you towards your next big thing, your next big promotion, your next job, your next role, your whatever you want to do when you grow up, because we're not done growing up. I don't believe we are. But that's what the SMART and the hard goals are for. It's okay, what's going to stretch me in an uncomfortable way? And what's a smarter goal that is kind of comfortable but uncomfortable, but it's still going to help me get there. And then the magic is when you're able to layer the two and accelerate your growth. So for me, they're listed out, and your SMART goals, they can be weekly, they can be monthly, they could be quarterly, but your harder goals are more like year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year. And when you combine the two though, and you kind of do it in a career mapping type of way, when you look back over your year of progress, you'd be surprised at exactly what your growth looks like. So for me, a vision board, yes, it's equally, right? But it's hard to measure your growth and your metric against a collage of ideas. But if you're more creative thinking, and that's the way it makes sense for you, and when you look at it, you can associate pride and passion with it, use a vision board. If you're more metric driven and analytic driven, I suggest doing the SMART and hard goal lists, and then watching your progress over time.
Yes, I love that. And, I do have my own little vision board where I actually put pictures of people who I aspire to become when I grow up, for the qualities and the things they do, the initiatives they take. But then I make a little checklist of the things I want to accomplish in a year, and I put that on my fridge. So I see it. I told my brain, this is what we're getting done this year, and I get them done. It's weird, but it's important, like you said, to take stock and to actually measure your success and look back and appreciate what you've accomplished.
Exactly.
So let's talk then a little bit about the future. What is next for Nia, and what is on that list of things that you want to check off still?
Sure. So right now, some of my hard goals, which not easy when you work a full-time job and you have 3 kids. So I'm continuing my education right now. I am immersed in a management program. And it's targeted at managing critical relationships to effective communication, to breaking down barriers, critical barriers for innovation and just forward movement. And that's not comfortable for me. But it kind of just tracks, because in 3 years, I want to be done with my master's degree. I want to at least just be able to take a breath from school for a little bit. I know a lot of us are lifelong learners, but it's not that it's taxing, it just takes a lot to maintain the job, maintain the volunteer work, and just all of it all at once, and then still have time to enjoy what you're doing. So I've set those two goals for myself because they're interlocked. One's going to feed the other. And in there too is I would like to achieve my next industry certification. So CISSP, I'm coming for you. That has not been an easy journey for me by any means, but anything worth it takes hard work. So, and then just more for personal goals, it's kind of shaking off the fear that kind of COVID sprinkled into our lives, and getting outside and being more active with my family, and, taking my passion for fitness and including them. So for me, it's about kind of finding that work-life balance, but showing my children how to do it too, and doing it through example, which is something that I am very grateful for, that I learned last year through the pandemic and remote work, was just how much I was missing that work-life balance, and just showing my kids everything that I'm about and everything that I represent and embrace, because it's a little different when you're dropping them off at school and going to work every day. And now, fast forward to the end of March 2021, and we do homeschooling and work from the same place. So we all get to see how each other kind of interact with the things we have to do. So if it's school, it's school. If it's work, right? But it's giving us all a different perspective and a deeper appreciation. So I folded that into my goals, because I don't want to lose that, right? Going back to work, I don't have to, that doesn't mean I have to let that aspect go. I want to, hold that near and dear to my heart, and continue to put passion into that as well, because I think your children not only are, they're our future generations, but they're also a little bit of a physical representation of us as parents. And I think that's kind of critical, and we lose sight in it, in the hustle bustle of going to work and being an adult and bills and, personal goals. But to make them a part of that, right? That's what really, I think, changed my life last year. So definitely incorporating that moving forward.
I want to press the pause button for a second, because I love what you just said, and made me realize that with COVID, we were working from home, and our kids were perhaps in the same room, but at least seeing us more in action. But we don't realize actually that this is job shadowing, that they're actually learning from us, not necessarily wanting to, but indirectly, we're kind of rubbing off on them a little bit. Let's hope. And they are seeing you as a role model doing all these things, and I am sure, because speaking to people like you and other guests, they keep pointing out the role that their parents have played. So here we are in the midst of a pandemic, looking at perhaps the challenges of having to be under the same roof, doing all these things and juggling it all. But at the same time, maybe there's value in this experience, and there is something good that will come out of this, and that our children will value one day. So
Yes.
Hopefully that will be the case. I can't wait for us to talk in a couple of years now. Let's talk a little bit what you define as failure versus success.
That's a tricky question, Kathy. I kind of view failure the same way I do growth and change and obstacles, right? There is no growth without failure. And I know that can start to sound a little cliche, but if you really pause and think about it, right? Do we really grow or appreciate the growth when it's easy? Or do we learn and appreciate it more if it took hard work, right? And so that's when I encourage, especially my teenager, to embrace the missteps and embrace the failures and learn from them, grow from them, be better because of them, right? Not in spite of them, but because of them, right? Embrace it, because that's how you are successful. You're not successful because life is easy. You're not successful because it's handed to you. You're successful because you learned the lesson that life was trying to teach you, and you really embraced it and you nailed it and you got it. And then you just build on that, though. You don't let it go and say, okay, well, that's in the past. No, you put it in your toolbox and you carry it with you. And then you learn when to use that tool to help be successful in other ways, right? So I think a great example of this, like I said, some of the exams in the industry, they're not easy, right? But if we were to let failure of a test or a certification kind of stand in our way, we're not long term, that's not really successful. Now, if you find a way around it and you take a longer path and it still gets you to the same goal, I would say that's successful. But success can also be measured by, okay, stand back up, study, and get it done. If it's really one of those goals that you know is critical to success, right? It's saying, okay, it knocked me down, but let me stand up and let me try again. And you try again until you achieve, overcome, persevere, and you can measure success from that.
So well said. If I could wrap it up, put a red bow on it, and give it to everybody in the world, I would. But hopefully this podcast does that. So this is fantastic. And on that note, what do you wish for your children and for future generations?
Dream big, be fearless. And I take that from my time in the military. Once upon a time, a mentor of mine told me that I was fearlessly overconfident. And I think originally it wasn't necessarily a compliment, but I embraced it as a compliment. And it's mostly because, as you know, people growing up in society today, we allowing other people to dictate our path is something I want my children to let go of. It's limitless. I was raised believing that if I wanted to be president, I could be president. I was raised, believing that if I wanted to take a non-traditional career path, that my family had my back and that they loved me and they appreciated me and they embraced me, right? And I want my children to do the same. And I want them to be fearlessly overconfident, because they're going to have missteps. They're going to fail. They're going to be beat up. Life is not easy. But when you go into it confidently and a little fearlessly, not overly fearlessly, that could be reckless, right? But to find that balance, life is a lot easier. But it's finding a balance between a lot of different things: the support system, your extended family, your sense of self, right? And not letting others, just primarily do not let others dictate your path, right? If I were to go off of the advice I was getting when I was getting out of the military, I wouldn't be successful right now. It's very fear driven. So I want to teach them that fear is natural and it's okay, but there's a way to embrace it and kind of use it as a shield instead of, letting fear drive a situation. There's a difference, right? So it's taking the fear out of a conversation or a goal and then using that as a strength and driving that forward and to do whatever they want. I want, there to not be a ceiling for my daughters. And I want my son to be able to advocate that his sisters deserve everything that life is going to hand him, and kind of just have them embrace that and know that that's what their mother believes and that's what their dad believes. And so therefore they can believe it too.
That's fantastic. Are there any values that you try to instill in your children or anyone around you?
Be honest. I think integrity is a critical part of who we are. The spoken word is very tricky, right? And so for me, your integrity is tied to your character. They're almost one and the same. So if there is a miscommunication, take the time to be humble and to, further that conversation, because relationships matter, right? You don't have to have relationships with everybody, but it's just, again, it's finding a balance, and being able to have people embrace your true self, right? So that they're not left guessing what you are, who you are, what your intentions are in the background. So lead with honesty, but be humble, and that we make mistakes and that we're human.
I love those. Those are fantastic. We haven't really dug into all of the nonprofit work that you've been doing on top of a full-time job raising 3 children.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the initiatives that you took to make a difference in your community.
Sure. So again, extremely humbling experience. So, transitioned out of the military. I realized there were a lot of, at least in terms of IT, right, and cybersecurity specifically, I was spending a lot of time in RTP, Research Triangle Park, up in the Raleigh, Durham, Morrisville area.
Mm-hmm.
And on reflection, I was like, well, I'm willing to make the sacrifice to drive an hour and a half to go to, a meeting once a month. But there's a lot of people that don't have that luxury. I'll call it a luxury, because there's a lot of people like me who are veterans or single parents or mid, career transition, right? Midlife career switch. And they don't have that luxury of time to drive that far. So it became more of a question of how do we do that here? How do we do that here at Fort Bragg, Cumberland County? And that's where Rob Martin kind of played a really instrumental role there, because he was a part of a nonprofit organization in Raleigh, the Information Systems Security Association of Raleigh, and he was on their board of advisors. Well, through him, I learned they were trying to stand up a chapter here. And again, with the Be Brave, I reached out to the gentleman that was trying to establish it here, and they were looking for a secretary. Maybe not, had no idea what that meant, but I raised my hand and I said, I'm here to help. How can I help? And we founded the organization about 4 years ago here for the local community. And then in the same year is when I was put in contact with Dr. Crystal Williams. And a short year later, we were establishing the Eastern Carolina chapter of Women's Society of Cyber Jitsu here for North Carolina. So I am the Eastern Carolina chapter lead for that organization, and she is the regional director. But again, it's having those critical conversations with somebody that has similar vision. And it's a lot of us saw that, okay, Charlotte, right? RTP, yes, we get it. They're cities, they're huge. And obviously there's nonprofit organizations that support the industry there. But let's have the more important conversation of what does that look like here, right? So we're hearing not right now or not in our current state, but what does our future state look like, and who wants to be a part of that? So the step beyond that was finding the network of professionals that wanted to help do that too for the community. And now here we are, three years later for one organization and 4 years later for the other. And that's what we're able to do once a month, is bring meetings to the table, virtual conferences, pre-COVID in-person conferences, one-on-one mentorship, resume helping, like all of it, but not just to the veteran community, to just our local community. And like I said, through the Women's Society of Cyber Jitsu, we also embrace our youth. And ISSA Fayetteville Fort Bragg's taken a similar step in partnering with our technical community college. And we actually were a part of the staff that help teach like the Girl Scouts or whoever their students are become successful in the industry of IT and cybersecurity. So it's really come full circle in a very short amount of time, but it's because of the network that it pulled together that I had no idea was here, right? I thought it was in Raleigh, but no, it's here. It's everywhere. It's wherever you dare to dream big enough to pull it together and make it happen.
Absolutely. And I think you talked to me previously about working with Fayetteville Technical Community College, FTCC as you call it, about developing an associate degree in high school. Did I hear that right?
You did hear that right.
Okay.
So when I originally got involved with FTCC, it was through a coworker when I supported the Air Force, and we met in BOCECon. Well, little did I know that man runs the cyber, or at the time was one of the primary instructors for the cybersecurity program. I was like, oh, wow, I really love what you're doing and I want to be a part. How can I help? Right. Well, fast forward, and what they were able to do was almost create tracks. So it's it's geared towards high school students. So as long as they maintain a certain GPA or higher, they are eligible to apply to take their high school courses on campus. But while they're there, they're completing courses that align with a career associated with more of an industry track. So you have engineering and IT and cybersecurity as three main examples. And so my son, for example, who will be a junior in the fall, could apply for this program. He would be able to go complete his high school, credits that he's required to complete. But additional step beyond that is the college courses. So then when he's completing his senior year, he is achieving his high school diploma and an associate's degree on top of it. And with industries like cybersecurity or IT, the stretch on that is that he could actually have industry certifications alongside with that if he were to choose to go that route.
Right. I love how there's that collaboration happening between the private sector, the public sector, the educational space, and where bridges are being built from high school to college and then beyond.
Absolutely.
Thanks to that collaboration and that initiative. And so I think this is probably not the only place where community colleges are giving courses to high school students. I think it's a matter of knowing about it and having that engagement with your advisor as when you're in high school to kind of start thinking about that path, or at least that first step in your, that next step on your path. So this is a really good little nugget of wisdom. So thank you for sharing that.
And to your point, Kathy, there's a lot of universities that are getting behind this movement, if you will. And what it does when you actually layer it in with the nonprofit community, they can volunteer. And when you're volunteering as a high school student, you're building your resume. So it's not saying you're going to get a six-figure job with an associate's degree, but it's saying that you're going to get a little more than an entry-level job, right? When you're laying in the associate's degree, the high school diploma, volunteering, and it's all geared towards the same industry track and future entry-level job, it's almost the perfect recipe for success.
I love that. The recipe for success. So to kind of wrap it up, what are you grateful for?
Every day. I know that sounds really corny. I'm very grateful for a healthy family. And especially in hindsight of 2020. And I'm just very grateful for every opportunity that comes my way to share my message and to just share a little bit of myself with everybody else. There's a lot of chaos out there. There's a lot of, unsettling news out there, right? We're bombarded with it through social media and news channels every day. So to take a chance on sharing the light and something positive, that is something I am extremely grateful for. And to be able to extend that through people like you and organizations like yours, to get that heard and out there, that can make somebody feel hopeful and empowered and motivated. That Kathy, is what I'm grateful for every day.
Wow. Well, I can't thank you enough for your unconditional support to this cause and really, really making an impact. On our website, I'll make sure to share all the webinars that you've invested in and all the details that you shared and all the organizations you support. You are making a huge difference. And I can't wait for us to get the feedback to this podcast or anything else that we put out there to see how you inspired, you motivated, you mentored, and you empowered people to really to get out of their comfort zone and to help their community and share that shared purpose of, protecting what we all take for granted and what we are grateful for every single day. So thank you so much for everything that you do within a 24-hour day and catching some Z's in between somehow. I don't know how you do it.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Kathy. It just means so much to me to be a part of this with you.
Thank you. And I also wanted to say that I am grateful that you're helping me break the stereotypes as well to what society may think of what a woman or a veteran or, any kind of person that they want to put in a box. Let's break out of those boxes. Let's drop the stereotypes and the expectations, low or high. You own that destiny, and you show how you can take that initiative, but embrace that outreach that you're getting and taking the initiatives to get the support that you need to fulfill that purpose, to pursue that cause, and to really, really, really do all the amazing things that you're capable of, and realizing there's so much possibility out there.
On the field to get some. On the real, we appear to get gone. Victory is ours, bring the chip home. Galactic, and I'm looking to get more. Raise it up, seen but you don't know. Running like the blood, pumping from the pressure of adrenaline rush. We crush whatever we touch. Where you been, y'all? Everyone know. And if you still don't get it, let it chill for a minute. Time is money, and trust me, man, I'm all business. And if you want something done, do yourself to get it finished. Wake up, victory's mine. On top, still on the grind. Gotta go get it right now. Holla at me if you're with me. It's time.
Stars above, I know that we're gon' make it.
It'll take all we got, we gon' make it. Show the world that I shine in our greatness. Keep it real, never gon' fake this. Till we make it, till we make it. Taking off, flying high like a spaceship. Take control, take a shot, what you waiting for? Keep it real, never gon' fake this. Till we make it, till we make it. Second verse, I'm telling you I'm ready to go, letting you know, cause I'm never alone. The ones that I roll with are incredibly known for getting down to the nitty gritty. If you're really with me, let's go. Moves made, dues paid, most talk but don't do a thing. We certified, observers I come through and give a true display. We champions, understand me, standing under a victory canopy. Canopy, the enemy was hitting keys, ready to drive at top speed, let's get it out. Wake up, victory's mine, on top, still on the grind. Gotta go get it right now, holla at me if you're with me, it's time.
I think the stars above, I know that we're gon' make it.
take or without, we gon' make it. Show the world that I shine in our greatness. Keep it real, never gon' fake this. Till we make it, till we make it. Taking off, flying high like a spaceship. Take control, take a shot, what you waiting for? Keep it real, never gon' fake this. Till we make it, till we make it.
I thank the stars above. I know that we're gonna make it. I know the ground below my feet's gonna lift me up. I thank the stars above. I know that we're gonna make it. I know the ground below my feet's gonna lift me up.
It'll take or without, we gon' make it. Show the world that I shine in our greatness. Keep it real, never gon' fake this. Till we make it, till we make it. Taking off, flying high like a spaceship. Take control, take a shot.